There's been a huge amount of debate, I think especially recently with technology really starting to push the envelope as to where the idea lies. It's my opinion certainly that it's still in an amazing, simple, iconic, creative idea. I think tech has done an incredible job of provoking creativity, of inspiring us to utilize it in really new and engaging ways. But I think at the end of the day, it's still about how conceptually you're going to utilize that tech or an interesting new media innovation approach to make the brand more accessible, more experiential, more approachable to a consumer. So a great example for me would be British Airways 2 years ago, absolute ad envy, the Grand Prix. It was a billboard that very simply interrupted whatever digital piece of communication it was serving at the time when a British Airways flight flew over the billboard. It had a little piece of artwork of a little kid stumbling up and pointing up to the flight, and it said BA Flight 205 from Heathrow to wherever. And I think what's amazing there is it wasn't the tech that was the idea. I have a similar app on my phone that I can easily see which airline, which flight is in the sky at the exact point that I'm standing, where it is. I also have an app that tells me whether it's clear or not from a weather perspective and whether that flight is visible. We also know that digital billboards serve different communication all the time, and there are many triggers that can provoke it. But what made that amazing is a little bit of a sense of magic. A person's walking in a public environment, there is media serving them comm all the time, and this particular idea was to add a little bit of magic. To bring to life the fact that the brand is active in their space in a unique way. So in my opinion, the idea is owned by the person that came up with it, by the company that came up with it. And that could be anyone. The reality is it could be anyone. It ends up being more by virtue of our designation and our role as advertising creative agencies that we are the ones that come up with the idea. Does that mean that we have not ever implemented an idea that's come up with by a media house or a media agency themselves? Absolutely not. We have, very successfully, but more often than not, the idea has been originated within the ad agency. That's a historical one, the idea of separation of media from advertising agency. We all know how that originated. I think the media competency, the buying and the strategy was very much part of the advertising agency, and it's by fault of our own that separation ended up happening. In the old days, the way that we made our money was purely from media. This creative novelty, creative work was sort of thrown in as an added value. And that's part of the legacy of why creativity is remunerated the way it is. But that's a slightly different debate. I think by virtue of that separation, we started making media buying a little bit more transactional by virtue of the fact that there wasn't that constant integration of being in the very same space as the creative teams and the creative strategists. And I think people have identified that need. Whilst there's an absolute science to being a media strategist, the focus ended up being more on the science of, like eyeballs and target market analysis and where you're best going to have the best RAs to be able to best pinpoint the target market that you're going for. And now I think we've seen, as you provoked, at Cannes, we're seeing creative agencies winning within the media categories because it's those guys that are coming up with a little bit more of an innovative approach to how to place and utilize media. Our own agency, as an example, Coca-Cola Rainbow Nation, was an idea that was come up with in-house. Could that have been come up with by a media agency? Absolutely, yes. Lexus, Precognition. There wasn't absolute, creative genius or strategic genius in that piece of work. We placed a couple of radio ads in a specific order, one after the other, but by virtue of the creative that we wrote into that, we were able to pretend that, you know, the ad could tell the future and see into what communication was going to be coming next. Just very clever and very simple, good media buying. That idea, once again, could have been come up with by anyone. So yes, I think media agencies are certainly starting, especially globally, to hire creative strategists and creatives themselves, because I think the pressure is on, and I think it's a really good thing. I also think that the closer that we work together, and integration is the it word that we've heard for the last 2 years. Getting it absolutely right is obviously the challenge, but where integration works incredibly well is where ego is not at the fore, where the idea is at the fore. Where it's about doing the absolute best idea as a group of agencies, whether they're related within the same agency group or not. And I think it's about being a custodian of an idea, but not being an absolute defender to the point that you won't allow that idea to evolve, because I think integration really allows for fantastic evolution. And I think we've started to see more and more powerful ideas come to life. And the power of that synergy, I think, is provoking the models to be approached differently in terms of hiring practice. Certainly in the way I hire from a creative team perspective is also changing. I think the walls are breaking down across the board. I mean, we saw it from digital. The digital agency was something that tried to happen absolutely separated. It was more of a production kind of approach. Then they started trying to integrate within the agency model. Then again, they separated because I don't think they integrated well enough. It was an integration within the same building or integration within a separate department, not true integration in terms of multi-skilled, multidisciplinary people that are working on one piece of business at the same time. Definitely in our business, that's where things are evolving to. It's a no-brainer. Where the separation happens is working across brands that don't all utilize your full offering. So we work with many brands that utilize our media agency. We work with brands that work with other media agencies, and we can work with each as lead agency in just as successful an approach, just as integrated an approach. So I think by virtue of that, we will see elements of separation continue to exist, because it's a bit idealistic to think that all brands are going to choose a one-shop offering for absolutely everything. But will the walls continue to collapse? Yes.